Have you ever felt that health is our greatest wealth, yet many often take it for granted? For far too long, people have believed that if there is no treatment to a disease, there is no hope. As a clinical research professional, I can assure you this is no longer true. Clinical trials, as we know it today, have made enormous progress in the world of drug discovery, research, and innovations, and have contributed to one of the biggest reasons as to why we have better treatments today than we did yesterday. You see, clinical trials are research investigations carried out in volunteers who are willing to test new drug developments to find the safest control measures to treat diseases. So, in short, clinical research is the key to finding new solutions in healthcare. According to the FDA research data, there are approximately 7,000 rare diseases out there with no medical interventions, and only less than 10% of them have FDA-approved treatments available. Now, we know that different people experience the same disease in different ways, but research shows that historically, clinical trials have not always recruited participants who represented the people most affected by a specific disease, condition, or behavior. Why, you may ask? Well, you see, our health is a combination of our mental and physical well-being, which can be influenced by many factors, including our environment, genetics, and even our lived experiences. However, our lived experiences can differ depending on our race, ethnicity, geographical location, climate, gender demographics, and socioeconomic statuses. So, person A, for example, may experience positive health outcome simply because of the ability to live, learn, and work in a community with high-quality education and healthcare. Person B, on the other hand, may suffer from negative health effects as a result of racism, discrimination, pollution, violence, and so on. So, when person A and person B participates in the same clinical trial investigation, their lived experiences may inadvertently influence how they respond to a specific treatment of the same disease. So, ideally, clinical trials should be designed not only to investigate newer and safer medical interventions, to detect and prevent early diseases, but also to benefit everyone, regardless of race, language, ethnicity, various lived experiences, and to improve the overall quality of life. However, in the development of clinical trial protocols, the inclusion and exclusion criteria of participant selection may not necessarily focus on the ensuring diversity and inclusion of these lived experiences, but rather the trials are mostly focused on fulfilling the primary, secondary, and end objectives of clinical trial protocols. So this lack of diversity or shortcomings in the development of these trials protocols have resulted in gaps in our knowledge and understanding of diseases, inadvertently impeding the quality of clinical care and the development of more effective medications or interventions. So as a result, there is disparity in treatments across populations. According to research, millions of people are excluded from clinical trials simply due to language barriers in certain countries or regions. Hence, the ability to equally represent patients with a specific disease or condition is hampered. Now, another factor influencing clinical trial diversity is the fact that some trials are only conducted in specific country, region, or demographic. For example, a large internationally sponsored clinical trials with multi-centered sites may have access to extensive research data from participants recruited all over the world, from hospitals, general practitioners, and many other healthcare institutions. Whereas an investigator-led research study, for example, may not be as well equipped to access research data at a national or international level. So, as a result, trials may then, underrepresent specific groups in the study, making the findings less applicable to those who may benefit the most, and causing inconsistencies in the way the research data is collected. However, this can be influenced by a variety of limiting factors, including budgets, resources, and the availability of modern technology in certain countries or regions. You see, recruitment factors are undeniably pivotal to every trial, and it is evident that more researchers are working harder than ever to develop novel ways to improve patient access to their sites. Nevertheless, this is not enough. Clinical trial sites are generally selected based on their experience levels and the capacity to recruit participants. And the research shows that many sites selected by pharmaceuticals and medical device companies and other clinical research organizations are predominantly based on sites' experience level. Because the majority believe that experienced sites provides better quality data and thus then equates to trial success. This is how less experienced sites with larger patient pool may be overlooked. So it is critical that more clinical trial sponsors provide equal opportunities to less experienced but competent sites if they want to explore a new and more diversified patient pool. One example is that clinical trials that are predominantly conducted in urban communities may be less accessible to rural populations, yet rural residents may respond far better immunologically to a treatment than urban residents. So, the broader and more diversified the patient sample pool, the more accurate and powerful the clinical research data. That is why clinical trials with a well-planned research design should include people with a diverse range of lived experiences and living conditions, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender orientation, and even spoken languages. Because inclusion is the manifestation of diversity. Today, more than ever, researchers must carefully consider their diversified and inclusive approach to clinical trial participations. Because not only can all communities equally benefit from the same scientific advances, but they may also benefit the humanity and the future scientific discoveries of our tomorrow. Thank you.